Yeah, it says for live individuals.
Call this meeting of the select board to order. On Monday, December 2nd, 2024. The first thing I just want to mention is we have a new system in place. So if you're here, all of you that are here, if you could please print your name on the paper on the table so that we know who is here.
There's a clipboard going around. Yeah.
Even better. Thank you, sir.
You go.
You, okay.
There.
So the first thing on the agenda is additions, deletions, or corrections. I have none. Does anybody have any?
I have none.
I have none. Right. That is followed by signed warrants and abatements. We have a general fund warrant for $22,668.80. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move we accept.
Is there a second? Second. And is there discussion? My discussion on this is that there are 23 vendors for this warrant, 36 different payments, and some of the things that were paid in road maintenance, winterizing, I believe it was the town dock bathroom, and just little things like that. Or trying to catch up. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And next we have a water department warrant for $2,205.04.
I move we accept.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Next, we approve the minutes of the previous meetings. First was a select board meeting on November 18th. I will make a motion for the minutes of November 18th. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. And then next is we have the minutes of work session on November 26th. There accept. Move that we accept the minutes of the work session of November 26th. And is there a discussion? Okay, on one,
Actually, there's one edit I'd like to make for item number 2.
okay,
That, it was documented that I made a motion to accept security grant, but it also said that I seconded it.
Oh.
And I think you're the one.
I think I
seconded it. So we just need to change that, Amy to Roberta.
thank you. Okay, thanks.
Oh, so that, okay, that was on the, that's in the meeting. That's in the meeting. Okay, so we're.
Okay, all in favor of the work session?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then the Board of Selectmen persons meeting on 11/26. We have those minutes. So.
And that's where we'll make the
We'll
correction.
make it correct.
Okay, perfect.
So, oh, yes. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 5 minutes. Okay. And now, does anyone have old business? Oh. Moving on. We need to discuss the community resilience. So a group Peninsula Tomorrow has come to the select board to ask that we join a group grant proposal with other municipalities on the Blue Hill Peninsula to go for $150,000 grant to fund Peninsula Tomorrow's getting a new and Peninsula Tomorrow is a climate change once a month. Anybody on the peninsula can join. They have outstanding speakers. They talk all about all forms of climate. They do lots of community building. They helped Blue Hill get their sewer pump moved, you know, with letters of support from other communities, things like that, and get their grants. So what we would be doing is giving up our ability to apply for this month's Community Resilience Partnership Grant for $50,000. But we could apply at the next time, which would be next summer. And Castine didn't actually have a project in the works to apply for at this point. So,
Do they do anything with workforce housing?
they don't, right? They don't,
Okay.
but I have something done.
Okay. Okay.
They do. So, I would make a motion that we sign on to this community grant, resiliency grant proposal to give them.
I'll second it, but I also think it's really great that we're building relationships with all the different communities, because we're all facing the same problems.
Thank you. Is there other discussion?
No, I would echo what you were saying, and I think, you know, what you mentioned as well earlier, the idea of, you know, the power that you can have seeking a grant if you are not a single municipality. If you do it regionally, you may have more. We have anything to lose.
They have a great track record. So thank you. All in favor? And the next item on our agenda is the PFAS source testing on the Battle Avenue site. And this is just an update. And the select board discussed at the last work session that the report that came in said we probably should have more testing at the Battle Avenue site about why the PFAS are there, how they got there, and during that conversation, the select board reached consensus that we believe that asking the town for the money to do that further testing is a good idea. We don't have to do it immediately. We can do it in May at the town meeting. But we just believe that for public safety, for general public safety, and since PFAS is such a big deal, that we should try to figure out as much as we can.
And I also think just from a liability point of view, if we didn't do it, is the town liable in the future? So I think, you know, it's better that we spend the money, do what we can to find out about it, and, you know, see where this leads us.
Okay. So do we have to actually vote on that then, Karen? No. We just start giving you an update. Okay.
So how does that move forward? Do we rely on that report, or do we warrant a town
No,
meeting?
what would happen is when we're working on the budget, that would be a capital item. And so, you know, I'll make a note in the budget book. You guys just remind me if we get there, and it's not there, then just say, well, it's from the back.
And do we have any idea what it would cost?
I think it was in the notes in one of our previous meetings. There were some figures that were put out, I think by the hydrogeological company or
Something like 18,000.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was broken out in a couple of different segments.
It was.
But I do think in conjunction with that, assuming they find something, they find the source, there will be some mitigation that'll have to happen.
Sure.
So we need to make it very clear to the community that it may cost X amount of dollars upfront to do the testing, but we have no idea what it will cost yet to do the mitigation. Yeah, but so somehow I think that maybe, you know, if and when we write it into the budget, I think we need to have a line item that, you know, for the potential mitigation, even though we don't know, we may not use the money, we may not need the money, but if it has to happen, and we have a plan for it, we kind of stuff.
I mean, one of the things, I need to talk with the state and find out what is the mitigation process.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is it just that soil would be taken somewhere else and become somebody else's problem? I mean, that may
Depends
be,
on where.
that may be something that they may just say, all you're gonna get out of this to know it's there.
Right,
And there really, at this point in time, there is not a mitigation process. That's something that they're working on, coming up with something. And they might want to find that out before town meeting. What is the mitigation process?
we can do that. We can have somebody
Okay.
come to the select board work session,
Yeah.
that would be great. Okay, yes,
Did they test the land at the golf course?
we didn't have a reason to test the golf course. That I know of.
They used behind where you're sitting right now. Many years ago, there was about 50 families having their names up there because there was so much pesticides being put on the golf course.
Right, and the utility board, I believe, looks at that every year, at what the golf course is putting
They
down.
do now because
Yeah.
so we changed over the years. But now we have the utility board checking on the golf course. And if it has to do anything, then the board has to approve with the utility board coach.
Yeah, Josh, can we wait on this till public? Yes. Okay, okay, yeah, let's wait, and then Josh, I do want you to speak to that. Town manager's report, welcome back.
So let's see, the ISO PPC ratings came in. I emailed them to you last week. We are at a 3.3Y. They've changed. That used to be, I think, an 8B. It used to be. We're not a 3Y. They've changed it for that, just so you know. The owner's project manager and fire department thing, I mentioned the last meeting, we're gonna have to have a special town meeting eventually, but one of the things we're gonna have to have for that RFP is an estimated project cost. So that's gonna be something that this board needs to discuss, and I don't know if you wanna invite perhaps fire chief and some officers to the next meeting, have a serious discussion on, you know, just a estimated value, because that's one of the things we learned was that the OPM contract is gonna be somewhat based on that, so won't be other related costs. I have an idea already of what we need to budget for, to pull out a surplus, but I'll withhold that for now until we have a discussion. I don't think it will change that much, so based on the
Derek, and I just ask you a question, so just to be clear. We just put out the RFP for the OPM,
we haven't yet, because.
but we will, no, but we will,
Right,
okay.
so I got the template and we met with Colliers and we went over the OPMs and what they do. Randy, I and Joe Slocum was in on that meeting actually, and we asked kinds of questions about it. And he said, well, for one thing, you need a estimated price, because we were saying, no, we don't want to put that in the ad.
To the estimated price.
Of the finished fire station project, soup to nuts. So that's, we're not going to get an OPM otherwise, because that they need to design that building to whatever the estimated value is, and then pull back from
My
that.
feeling is that the OPM is going to help establish what that number is, because we don't know. And for us to do it, we'd be pulling a number out of a hat, you know, like how we, you know, I think my feeling is we'd hire an expert OPM who's got a lot of experience in doing firehouses, and they will work with the town and the fire department to establish a budget. I don't think we can do it the other way around.
They told me we need to have that figured in order to make this work. Because originally I had it written up that we weren't gonna have a number in there. And basically, they said, in order to get that number, because their bids are based on it, how much they're gonna charge, it's gonna be how much they tell the architect to design to. And then they hold them accountable. They try to save money by buying certain things outside of like the general contractor, so there's no markup. Let's say there's a washing machine, a dryer, some other equipment, then we will actually purchase it, save money. So we'll save money in those different steps, but they said you need a figure, because that's going to be what gives you everything. Or a square footage of a fire station is the other thing. So like we talked about the study, I think it's the second study, the one for, Battle Ave, the feasibility report there, and, that, well, discussed three different places, but Battle Ave was the one that we're looking at now. And I think it was like 11,000 square feet or something like that. So then if that's the size, they have a rough idea of what that will cost based on, how many projects they've done. Like they have an average cost. This colors. So I don't know, Mark probably can shed more light on.
Let me just go with it. I mean, I think the wild card for us. Okay, one, at some point, we're gonna come up with a number, 5 million, 6 million, 7, whatever it's gonna be.
Right,
But I think the wild card is that we don't know how much money we'll get from the congressional directed spending. So it's, if we were to go to the town right now and say we think it's gonna be an $8 million fire station, I think that would be a bitter pill for a lot of people to vote for. Okay, if we came to the town and said, we have a good idea that, we've spoken to the senator's offices and we've spoken to the congressional offices, and we think we can get, $2 to $2.5 or $3 million in congressional directed funding, and we came to the town and said, okay, it's going to be a $6 or $7 million station. The town's only going to be paying for 3.5 or 4 of it. We've got debt coming off. Is it next year when the bonds are paid off?
2027.
Yeah, I mean, which is about the same time as this, so, I mean, I just think it's important that everybody in town understands what we're getting into in terms of tax increases and what this thing is really gonna cost. I think we have to be very careful. I think each step of the way, we need to be really careful so that we're transparent and that we're doing our very best to cross all the T's and dot all of our I's as we go forward.
So here's the problem. Is you're gonna need a price tag, but then to preliminarily design that building to a square footage someplace on the plan, it's gonna have to have a price tag attached to it. Whatever that amount is, there's no guarantee we get the congressionally directed spending, so the town's gonna have to decide one way or the other. Do we do this and what is the acceptable price? So I offered that as an alternative line of thinking is, okay, what is that price? Is it 5.5 million? Is it 4.5? Is it 12 million? Whatever it is, and we may get a couple million, let's say, from congressionally directed spending. That we need to base this, I think, on our need, not on like in a dollar amount, and know that going in that, yeah, we'll try to get money knocked off it. But in order to design to a certain criteria, you're gonna have to have that. Otherwise, we're gonna spend that money twice.
Listen, we have to do this right. We're
Right.
doing it, we're doing it.
But that's what I learned mostly from that meeting. And at first I wasn't sure what I was gonna learn, and I learned a lot. So go ahead, Mark.
As you know, a couple of weeks ago, I sent you a multi-page
Yep.
email outlining all the steps from OPM completion of a project.
Yep.
Using a certain model, which the town can decide if they want to or not. Regarding an OPM, I think what Collier's suggested to you is that as it's typical in OPM, we'll run you about 1.5% to 2% of your overall. So if it's a $1 million, really cheap number, but it's not. It's going to be, let's just say, $6 million project, $5 million project. You have to select an OPM first before you establish a price. That's the first thing you have to do. You can't come up with a price. None of us know what it costs. It could be $450 a square foot, and that's probably not a bad. So if it's an 11,000 square foot building, that's really a $6 million project. So if you want to do it that way, just take 2% of $6 million. Say I'm going to authorize up to $120,000 for an OPM. And what you do is you hire them on an hourly basis, same way you'd hire an attorney or a designer, with an upset number, a not to exceed number. So you say, we're going to pay you $180 an hour, just a number. And it's going, the upside cost to us is going to be $120,000. Then they can put out an RFP to designers. And then the designers will start to establish preliminary costs, working in concert with the OPM.
Mhm.
So you have not dueling, but you have two estimates going all the time. And it's an iterative process. Keep on coming together and comparing notes. Gee, I'd like to have this. Well, this is what this costs, and et cetera, et cetera. And you do that until you get to the conceptual design. And then you want to bring in a pre-construction manager. That's exactly, it's a contractor, but they're working in pre-construction services to take on constructability, scheduling, risk analysis, cost, and quality of construction. Otherwise, what would, and no disrespect, but we could end up with what Orland has, which is just a prefab, pre-engineered building. If you try to establish cost early on, that is untenable, because we'll just end up having a terrible time getting to those numbers. You have to hire. It's how it's done across the industry, not just here in Castine, not in Penobscot, you know, in the region. You won't know until you get somebody on board. I would suggest that Colliers, would love to know that $80 million project, okay, that's a $250,000 fee for us. Or a $200,000 fee for getting 6%, whatever it is. I would implore you to get Colliers is a company that's working at Maine Maritime Academy. They are managing the dock, the pier project for the academy. And I don't know if they could.
Are they a contractor build, design build firm?
No, Colliers is a owner's project manager.
Okay.
And they're, you know, a lot of their projects, but huge. It's an international firm. I think you're gonna be looking at a two-person shop, maybe three-person shop, ultimately, to run the shop, because the scale just isn't there. But the risk to the town is tremendous.
But listen, listen, I'm away here a few years, but I would think that this is probably the biggest project that Castine has done in ever. Has Castine ever had a $6 million project before?
Main Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, infrastructure.
Well, this is an infrastructure project,
Right.
major.
Well, I know, but it's not pipes on the ground.
No, it's.
No, but I just think that we need to be really careful each step of the way. And I, again, this is not something I'm experienced in. I've done some construction, but I really like what Mark is saying about hiring the OPM on an hourly basis. And if with a cap of, you know, no more than this, when the project is done. And at least we know that it's, you know, and I would love to speak to the fire department. I mean, you've already spoken to the fire department,
Mhm.
but I think it would be great to get a sense from them of how much they think it's gonna cost. Maybe we can speak to a couple other fire departments to see what they think it could cost. But I mean, I'm sure we're looking at a $6 million, you know.
It sounds like we should invite the leadership of the fire department to come to maybe the December 9th work session, and maybe a work session early next year at the latest, but, and have that conversation. And I like the up to idea.
Well, I know how much I'm gonna ask for,
Yeah.
for the pre-engineering anyways, because we already went over what
Yeah.
between legal, surveying, architectural, the owner project manager's costs, we have an idea of what we should be.
And then we'll have to have public meetings before we go to the town and ask them
Yeah,
to approve that meeting. So we'll have public meetings and we'll.
but it'd be good to have the fire department, the person up here to discuss, and I see Joe's back there. You know, we listened intently and asked a lot of questions of the OPM, type thing.
And just as a resource.
Yeah.
The bank board that I'm on in the Hudson Valley, they specialize in financing fire stations. throughout New York State. And there's a guy, that's all he does at the bank, is works with fire stations and their budgets and their planning. So I could invite, I'm sure they do it for free, we could invite him to Zoom into a meeting and just say, well, this is how we work, just to get a different point of view.
Okay, let's try to get the fire department
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
For the next.
All right, well, I'm gonna continue to peck away on this
Please.
15-20 page.
Okay,
I like my one page better.
yeah,
Than this one, so it's created more work trying to understand the whole thing. So, all right, so waterfront study, I just got the contract today. Haven't had a chance to review it, but I did talk to them last week. We'll probably have some meeting next week. I gotta look at my schedule and everything else and Xander, and so we'll probably have a joint meeting with probably the Board of Selectmen and the Harbor Committee on that one. Of course, if they have internet on the ship, Scotty will zoom into that one. Depending on which day, because that was one of our concerns, but we didn't want to let December get entirely away from us, and so we'll try to do it
And
something next week. And that will just be for them to get an idea of what we're thinking. And then in January, once they get that, they're gonna have that bigger public meeting where they'll get public input on what the public believes that this project should be also, and then from there, we'll lock into the scope and move forward on.
and we should probably just say so that everybody knows that we voted to award it to GEI, I should say.
Which is also hired the Musson Group as consultants on the job also. So let's see, sent out a reminder today of our December 10th training meeting, which will go over, it's really based for the planning board, zoning boards of appeals, but I think it's for any board that has to make quasi judicial decisions. And also ones that need to have Freedom of Information Act training. At least once during each one of their terms. There was a question whether or not you got reelected, whether you had to take it again. You do. I believe we learned that at the meeting the other night, right? I came in for that one. It's about the third time I've had that since I've been here. But we believe that all boards will get a value out of it just because it's going to talk about findings of fact, whether you're having to do that or not. When you're making decisions, it's always good to have an idea that that's what your decision should be based on. So should they be challenged, you have the reasons why you made those decisions as a body. And of course, we'll get into questions of conflicts of interest, because there's always confusion on what those may be. So I think that's important too. And that will be 4 o'clock Tuesday until 7:30. We will be serving sandwiches of some sort for people to eat, so they won't go hungry during that session. Fire danger, according to the maps, is now normal to low, but we're still controlling any open burning permits, but I understand the fire department is allowing fire pit permits. Cybersecurity grant, signed that contract last week. We went over this at our meeting last week, short meeting, I should say. Well, I don't know if it was short, but it was a unscheduled meeting that we had scheduled for that, and so we may get security keys, which would have two, what are they called? Not two-party authentication, two-factor, thank you, that's the word I was looking for. Some phishing training and some other training surrounding it. I'm not sure of all the nuances yet because I have one training this week, another one next week, and then the third one will come in. Whether or not we get those keys on this round or not, I'm not sure, because we originally weren't signed up. And of course, good thing is they do that training, so we don't have to manage it. And that was the key for that. So, and of course, more and more small towns are getting attacked. So we want to make sure that we're not vulnerable. Let's see, Community Economic Development Director, job description, I've actually worked on an ad, I emailed it out today as a rough draft, but I'm still waiting, Dan, if you can get me that old list that you had, I can start putting a job description somewhat together, although that ad touches on
Okay, see.
some of those factors that I think we've discussed. But I want you to just check it out and we can discuss it next week. Let's see, pedestrian crossing devices, was supposed to get 2 without the bases, I actually got 4 with the bases, no, I did not steal them. They told me to take an extra 2 of them, so I said, all right, are you sure? And they said, yes, please, we're sick of tripping over them, we need the space in our garage, so. They told me I could probably come back and get a couple more if I needed to, so we'll see. Wildfire protection plan grant startup, I reached out to Don Tenney today, but asking if a tree committee member would serve on that committee. And also asked him to be here next week so we could discuss changing our elm tree ordinance to a shade tree ordinance. We will go over various discussions on what they believe on the committee needs to be changed and also what we think needs to be added in there for any clarity. Let's see, solar study. I did give you the last, 4 pages of that, which is their recommendations. I did reach out to Dana Ware to ask her the questions that I had on, could we have 2 companies of 1 megawatt? And if not, how do you know that? What's the law that prevents us from having, 2 different companies operating in the same footprint? And I also reached out to New Hampshire Solar Gardens, a person who was doing the large, I forget how many acres, 30-acre one in Brewer behind Lowe's. And I have experience with that company from my time in Allenstown. They had solar panels on our roof, so I want to have a discussion with him to find out whether he has something of value to add, but also in January, before we go too crazy on this project, there is also a workshop coming up that is called the solar on landfills with Select Energy and Maine DEP. So that's a lunch and learn. I've had a couple of those for the main power options. So that would be a something that they'll be discussing. I don't know if Select has like something going on with the state where, maybe it's all boilerplate, but I just want to see about the whether that can save us any of those phase 2 and 3 costs, as well as ask some other questions. One of the things I wanted to ask also, when New Hampshire Solar Gardens gets back, they're talking about federal tax credits and some other payments to have batteries also. That so they can store the excess power, and that's a possibility of more money for us, more savings, or maybe we can tax, I'm not sure. So we want to hear about that. C Street Congressional Grant, got that software working, it worked great for the first time I logged in, and now it's logged me back out again, so I'm trying to get in there. And for the floating dock grant, congressional money, I've reached out asking, hey, who's gonna reach out to me for access to that? I haven't got a response. Acadia Dock, still waiting for them to get back to strengthen the substructure of that. Thought it was gonna be this past week. I didn't see any action, so I believe that and we're on their schedule, but I just read an article in Bangor Daily that a lot of communities up and down the coast are having problems getting contractors. There's so few and so much damage out there, so luckily we have the tops of ours fixed right now, so at least if the water comes up, it will flow through or be submerged and not be pounded on. Let's see, working with FEMA still on Water Street, Fort Madison. We may end up having to pull some money out of those funds that people approved to actually do some engineering down there. But I have seen what it was based on when they did their estimate. For requests, I think I've got all the documents requested out there. If I haven't, they're gonna have to request, whatever else is out there. That I did, say that would be $100, because I have over 6 hours in
So
that anyways.
this is the Freedom of Information Act request that you have.
Yeah,
Okay, I guess my question is on these requests.
yeah,
You know, I know there are some rules about frivolous claims, people, if, if you're being asked to dig up something and there isn't a solid basis of it. I just would like to check with our attorney because you're spending a lot of time on
well,
this.
I already have checked with our attorney. That's why I said they need to be specific on what they want, not some meeting at some point or who was at that meeting. It's either in the minutes or you can look at the recording to find some of that stuff. So yeah, I already went through a lot of
Okay.
that. But yeah, and it needs to be a request for actual documents, not buried within a story.
Okay,
Okay,
I guess I'm gonna be clear
Yeah.
about that.
yeah, it's a list of, okay, this is what I want, not. It's a 3-page letter and then, oh, this is a request, this is a request. No, put your things in a list, be specific on what they are.
Okay,
So that's
Okay.
basically
thank you.
where I am now. There's emails, minutes, agendas, videos, there's all kinds of stuff in there. Let's see, reminder, I won't be here Friday. I thought I could zoom in, but I'll miss part of the session that I want to see. Which will fit in well with a grant that fire department just put in for some training on post-traumatic stress and stuff like that. And that's what basically one of the sessions is on for town managers. So from our perspective, it will be, okay, more of and they say, no, I've had this training before. They have a kind of an acting troupe. They have scenarios and they act out these situations. They have a little storyline, and actually I found a lot of value the 2 times that I've had these people do this. It's part of how they do their training and things. So you don't fall asleep during it because it's more exciting than somebody dictating something to you. So hidden in that is like there's some compassion. There's tears because these actors are really good, right? So I'm looking forward to that session.
Good.
And then the other ones too, there's 2 other sessions during the day. Let's see. See if there's anything else on here that we need to discuss, Christmas Eve closure of town hall. It's not on here, but I'm gonna add it on my final notes. Normally, apparently, we take vacation days on Christmas Eve and the office is closed, or if somebody really doesn't want to close, I guess they get to be here. Also, so need the board's approval for that if you want to continue doing that. I believe Karen and Sue
Sure.
appreciate
Did
it.
you also want to bring up, on the 13th, Friday the 13th next week, we actually have Bouchard cleaning coming to.
Oh, thank you.
shampoo the
I forgot about that one.
So we will not be open to the public. I'll be here because somebody's gonna be here for the carpet cleaners, and I can work in my office for a while and then home my place and carpet it. The garden club is gonna be doing the 76th to the 8th grade class, but we're doing that in the basement. We'll just have to go in back, but the office will be closed.
Yeah, thanks. And I have one of my cybersecurity trainings that day too, so I'll either work from home or move around here with Karen also. I believe that's everything I have right now for you. You can look at my schedule. There's some other stuff on there to see what else we're working on. And I believe you are going to discuss the housing.
I could just follow up on one thing on Derek. I just want to thank you, Derek, for mentioning the ISO rating that you
Yeah.
mentioned at the top of the report. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is significant for Castine. I think it's the lowest rating that we've ever had for the town. And as I'm aware, I think much of this was done by Jack Spratt, who's our assistant fire chief. And I think it took dozens and dozens of hours of his time, and a lot of record keeping to provide this. I just want to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
And thanks to the fire department, because I think it's one of the things that the fire department does that might bring lower insurance rates for some residents in Castine. And it just may be something that's a little unseen, kind of behind the scenes, different than when the fire department might show up at someone's property, for a medical or fire emergency, but other things they do that benefit.
Just for everybody who's here, the ISO rating is, what does it stand for?
The insurance services offices, and
Okay.
that's the rating system that all insurance companies use to refer to
Okay.
how to give you your rating for your insurance for your residence or
Okay.
commercial property.
Okay.
And I think the 3 is a very excellent rating.
Yeah, we
a lot of
didn't-
communities don't get.
Just to clarify, you said we went from an 8, we actually only went
No, no,
from 4 to 3.
the three, no, it's the second number there, the three,
Why?
3Y used to be called an 8B or something like that at some time. Now they've used it so it's not confusing because there's such a margin between the 3 and the 8.
Right.
Because that's the PPA, I forget what that one stands for, but that's also what your insurance broker will get into the look too. Because it's basically 2 rates there, they're based on water and everything else.
One of those refers to the on-net setting where there's
Right.
3 existing water supply in the system, and the Y refers to the off-net system where there's no.
Within 1,000 feet of whatever, right, yes.
So that's.
Yes, can you just hang on one second? I just want to get this vote. Okay, so I will make a motion that we close Emerson Hall on Christmas Eve. Is there a second?
And we'll second it.
Is there a discussion?
No.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. I wanted to get that done. And then, just before we get to public comments. I did want to mention that, Derek and I had a meeting today with Hancock County Planning Commission and, the Department of Economic and Community Development, because Castine was awarded $175,000 for looking into housing for the entire, we are partnering with Surrey and Brooksville. And so it will be for the entire peninsula. Some of the things that the grant will do is we're going to create a regional task force that will have a monthly housing forum, identify regional issues and explore creative solutions. We're going to look deep into something called nester leave. So there will be lots of educational talks, and the nester leave people will come. We're going to talk about the accessory dwelling program. Other towns are really excited about accessory dwellings, and so they'd like to create a toolkit to make it an easier process. And then we want to develop an attraction plan, both for developers and for tradespeople. Because we obviously don't have enough tradespeople, so that's something that we're going to do too. And then finally, a housing inventory and usage analysis for Castine, Surrey, and Brooksville that will include GIS, maps that overlay tax maps, and will help us to find places that housing could be.
But that grant at 175, it's specifically for Castine or for the,
It is for Castine, Surrey, and
Okay.
Brooksville, but the entire region will get benefit from it.
Okay.
So
And who's with the 3 towns together, who manages the oversight of the
Castine.
fund expenditure?
Castine does, except what I believe is gonna happen, we're going to get our contract in 2 weeks from DECD. And at that time, we're going to have a meeting and vote. And I think what we're going to do is give oversight to Hancock County Planning Commission, to Greg Kittich, who is the housing person there. They mostly wrote the grant, and they know exactly how to do this, so we'll do that, and then it'll be one last thing on Derek's plate.
I'll just get CC'd and
Yeah.
maybe have to send something now and then.
But it's really exciting.
so
Is there any other business? Okay. Are there any communications? I have none.
I gave you that MRC card.
Yeah, okay. That's the garbage party card. Okay. Anyway. All right, acknowledge members of the public, and Gus, I'm gonna go with Josh first, and then you, Josh.
For the 2023, the golf club presented their application for the pesticide they wanted to use. And it
we've done as we normally do. But subsequently, I've been there was a study done which cross-reference the active ingredients of different commercial herbicides with their active ingredient contract with that with the pesticide board and so we looked at the 16 pesticides that Delta was using that year. 5 of them contain PFAS, and we gave that list to all of our associates who run the water district. Wow. We're working on the assumption that they 5 of them about them they use. We don't have video of them using it, but we do have some handwritten journals about when they're 2023. They're definitely applied numerous times during the summer, and also some of the same chemicals were used purchased in 2022, 2021, 2020. So these particular PFAS driven chemicals were used on all the tea boxes, and they're used twice in the summer and once in the fall. So they were using these unknown. Not to blame, they didn't know, we didn't know when we approved them. But used up through the end of 2023, there was sort of a flow chain of communication. We notified them. Please find. They weren't able to do that. So they're used through 2023. So the golf club is the largest landowner in the source water protection zone by far. The field on Battle Avenue, where you may go to the fire station, is also on the source water. So to me, it's not entirely surprising that there's PFAS found in the field, considering that there have been PFAS sprayed on the ridge of the arm. Years. That may not be the source, but we don't have to look for a hypothetical source. We know that that was used out of our aqua. And because of that, instead of testing for PFAS every 3 years, which we've been doing in the past, we decided we should test every year. And so the question of the dirt in that pond, the reason that's of some concern is that pond is stated large, it's bracketed on one side by the second green, and on the other side by the 7 P box. So, in my opinion, and I brought this to the attention of the select board in October, that this dirt was being spread, which means that I reached out to the golf club, they were working under the assumption that it doesn't. I didn't feel that they should have been working on it. But and that's the reason why there's some concern about that dirt.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. And in 2024, the golf clubs did not use those chemicals?
No, they found.
Thank you. Okay,
Not to use before, but
right,
we
before,
go with it.
right.
Yeah,
if
no,
we
they were,
could go.
there's, go before 2020,
Right.
there were definitely some
Yeah.
that were used.
And there's no malice. They didn't do it on purpose.
No,
They were, but there's PFAS in everything that we're
Right. Just
finding.
one more thing, so up there in October, and I believe that Oliver Associates are gonna test all 4 wells for PFAS either in November, December, Derek.
Yeah,
Has that testing been done and the results in?
nope, I don't think they've done it. Karen, last we checked, they're gonna do it like right around now, right?
I think
December, yeah.
Do it. Because there's some new federal requirements, and so they were gonna do them in December, and then again, they'll do them in
5 to 7 months.
5 to 7 months. They wanted to, rather than doing things twice, they wanted to line them up so that they fit when the feds are requiring us to do it. So
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
he's got the test, he has the test, it's in hand. He's just waiting for the time.
And Gus, you had something?
Yes, I just want to state that you really should think about testing that soil on compost because if, I mean, You know, we're right down to, I think, the ledge, and the ledge is gonna probably go back to the well, which is on the property. And if that well gets contaminated, what does that do with the package truck? That's my thinking. I'm not a specialist. But Amy mentioned, the low, the ISA ratings for the fire department. I think that's great. Now, does that include any, the close to 40 homes that are considered to be unprotected?
I can't speak to all the details of the
You know that about 40 homes that are protected,
unprotected where off neck.
yes.
So
In other words, I'm insurance is double. That's not the problem. The problem is when you're protected, the insurance company can say to you, we're not going to give you insurance anymore.
Right.
So that's a big concern about that.
Right.
Our building a fire station so far away from us that we're over the 5 mile limit. That of course, a big concern about building a firehouse when you're drinking water.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jeff.
So is there an answer to that? Anybody want to give me an answer?
I don't know the details of the report. I was looking at the rating
You know,
of it.
What was the question?
the question is, now that we have a lower rating, is that going to help the people who are connected that are beyond the 5 mile limit?
It doesn't apply, it's still the same scenario. There's a distance out there, and that's something we talked about, potentially addressing with a fire pond out Pilsner. which would
We've
be
been
wise.
pushing that for years.
Yeah, no, I understand, but but the change in the rating doesn't change those people that are
Okay.
outside.
That's the right question.
That doesn't change.
And you know, it's not by, they don't do it by, having profiles. They do it from your house, your driveway, right to the fire department, right?
Okay. It's something that we have to keep
Where you're
looking
working
into,
on.
figure out. We have to keep figuring it out. I know. I'm waiting for a call back. We're playing phone tag.
If you have that hard to get hold.
He has been, but I'll get him. Okay. Anybody else have a question or comment? Okay. Oh, Mark.
You open to the public?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I got a question about, next week, next Thursday night. The zoning board of appeals is going to hear an appeal of the Lee Library Board of Trustees.
Well, is it next Thursday? No, okay, yeah, December 5th and the 12th, right,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Your question?
Well, no, I know that's when it's going to happen. Is there an actual text of the appeal? Because the Historic Preservation Commission, which is being cited as the source of the appeal, of the positive appeal, has had no communication whatsoever, other than being notified that there's an appeal that we made an error. That's the positive appeal. Is there, the first question, is there any text to the appeal? Second question is, has the library engaged a legal counsel? Because if so, then the third point I want to make is that the town, which the Castine Historic Preservation Commission represent, will not be represented by council unless
So December 5th, the ZBA is meeting, correct?
to elect a new.
That to elect and there'll be a lawyer there to discuss with them some stuff, I believe.
I think the town attorney will be there for CBA.
Right,
To essentially gives ZBA direction, making sure that they follow procedures.
the library has not had any legal counsel, to my knowledge, at least that the town paid for this. So, and
But did
there is an application.
But did the library hire, did the library hire their own? What?
I don't believe they did, from what they said, no,
I mean,
they chose not to.
I just want
They'll go
to,
the
I just want
ZBA.
to say that if it turns out that they show up with an attorney, then I think it should be tabled until the town can have an attorney.
Well, I think the town is going to have an attorney. I think the ZBA is going to have an attorney, and that's where it should be
Okay.
at that point. There's no reason for the Castine Historic Preservation to have an attorney at that point, because they've already made the decision, so it's up to them to argue why the decision was made in error or not.
It's up to whom?
it's up to the appellate to convince the ZBA they've answered their questions, if you will, to grant them relief from, the decision that the Castine Historic Preservation made. So they need to say, okay, this was the decision made, this is where we disagree with that decision. And then the ZBA needs to figure out, going through their findings of fact, whether they uphold or deny their permit for relief or grant that relief. It's basically what it comes down to.
It wasn't a matter of relief, it was a matter of, we found.
No, their relief, what I mean by relief is their relief, they're asking for the decision to be overturned.
Is there,
You guys,
first part of my question was, is there a text attached to the appeal,
you mean an application?
application?
Yes, there's an application.
And when does the Historic Preservation Commission get to review this? It's based.
I guess you can, I guess at any point you can have it. But you want to do it as a board. You want to review it, but I'm not sure what you're asking, Mark. Like, at that point, they've already made an appeal. It's just like the planning board makes a decision and it goes to the ZBA for being overturned, right? You don't lawyer up on all sides on that fact. The planning board's already made the decision. They had findings of fact. Now it's up to the ZBA and the appellate to say, okay, we appeal these findings of fact. We disagree that they have whatever, and we want you to grant this particular decision. Just like a variance, let's say. The person has to convince the ZBA they meet the 5 criteria for the variance.
Is there
Now,
a text?
there is an application. I don't have the application. Sue, do you have it on file right now?
It's with Sean.
Sean has, it. Okay.
Well, how do we get?
I get it for you tomorrow if I need to. Right.
Okay,
It's public information.
Right, it's a public application. I thought you sent out notices last week, right?
Did you get a notice of the meeting? I mean, that's all that. typically
That's what I
goes out.
thought.
And then people have any.
the answer is
if people
no.
have any question, I mean, all people get is the notice saying that it's happening and what it is. And then if people have any questions, they contact the code enforcement officer to
I
ask.
will do that, I'll do that.
And so let me add to this. So Mark, when they're not gonna discuss this actual case on fifth, just so you know. What they're gonna discuss is, okay, what do we do with an application? Is this a de novo or an appellate application? Okay? I don't know if you realize the difference, but a de novo means then Castine Historic Preservation may be at that table because now all new information is involved, okay? Meaning they get the record and new information can come in. If they're told this is an appellate review, then the record is already there for them to review. So there's nothing new that gets submitted for, okay, the reason why we did this was that, or the reason, it's basically, here's the decision. Here's my written appeal saying we disagree with the decision, and they have to review what the record was from the original decision and make a decision on appellate whether or not to overturn or to uphold the decision of that other board or the other official. Could be the code enforcement officer, but if it's de novo, then you get to pull out everything, including the kitchen sink, for new information pertaining to it. If that makes sense.
Bobby, just one, Brooke, did you, Brooke had her hand up first.
I just wanted to clarify. So. In the appellate situation.
Yeah,
Word you use,
appellate, yeah.
then the commission has no role.
Right, the record's already there, so the record that was presented and the decision making is the record that the zoning board of appeals bases their decision on. So it's already created, nothing new can be supplied. They can ask questions of the person appealing, okay, this or that, but the decision itself has already been made, the record's there. That makes sense. But
It's kind of like the idea it's not argued back and forth at that presentation because there's no new information. So that's why I need no attorney and the original person who made the decision doesn't have a place to argue. Does that make sense? all that's being appealed is an excellent decision. And so
Thank you. Wait, Bobby, did you have a comment?
I was just gonna say that the recent cases, and there haven't been many recently, a spate of three, has been common practice, no those. And so if, I think if one requests to see and be in a position to see what's being said, it's not unreasonable. Doesn't say what the ZBA is gonna do this time, but its history and practice lately has been to do.
All I want to do is be properly prepared and not just get,
Is Sean here tomorrow?
Yes.
No?
Yeah,
So,
and the weird thing is on this one here, I don't know how de novo will work with another board in the way. Because they've already made the decision, so unless that whole board sits there and takes votes during, the record is still there.
Can-
But
Can
it
we
could
get
be if
them-
there's a new map or something else. Those are the questions I think the ZBA is gonna have on December 5th.
But let's get, the Historic Preservation Commission a copy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
if I had it, I'd have it to you already.
Okay, thank you.
Again, Mark, can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but this whole project has been supposedly, it should have gone to the preservation
That's right.
initially, before coming to the planning board. I did, yeah, the planning board approved it. Then the preservation stepped in. And disapproved it, now it's going to zoning.
but
So you put a condition on your decision
Yes.
that
Yeah.
it has, pending the decision of the Historic Preservation.
Well, we did too.
Right?
Right, initially, that's, yeah, we did the approval according to the presentation, right, but then the library came back. And had corrected this. That we requested.
The other
Right, then it was again denied by the preservation. So there's been a lot of things that
Yeah.
have gone around and around and around. Right, and that's,
It's been confusing.
it's somewhat, it needs to be corrected.
Yep.
Right.
And that's my pitch for anybody that wants to go December 10th to this planning board ZBA training. You can learn about this and more before December 12th actually hits. So we'll also have that, and some of those questions, if people have them, can be asked during that. I can type them into the chat and we can just see what Maine municipal attorneys also say, whoever else is there for attorneys for that session. So that was a perfect segue in
And I
for
think.
why this is important.
Board committee members.
Right.
Today, and
We
I
don't-
believe that I believe he's had 4 responses to all the emails that have been out. And he had sent the email to every chair and asked every chair to get it out to the rest of the board. I hope that did happen.
Today,
He did it once before.
Right, I sent out a reminder, right?
And there's been 2 people who said they would attend. There's been one that said maybe, and there's been one that said, I'm sorry, I can't attend. So.
But they would if they could.
but can that training be taped? I mean, even if people
We'll
can't be.
try, we'll see.
I'm just saying that
Right.
if anyone who can't make it, at least if we had a recording that they could watch later, that would be very helpful.
It's a Maine municipal
Yeah.
training, and I don't know.
Say
Um,
louder.
That, if they do, it's only for a temporary part of time.
Okay,
Then you gotta buy it.
Brooke, are we supposed to respond to that invitation?
yes, please,
Yeah,
because we're bringing dinner, so
Very kind of you, but
it did not, you didn't know that.
feel that.
But if you would like to let us know, we will bring you dinner.
There was no indication of RSVP.
Yeah.
Derek.
Oh,
Derek.
okay.
Just bring something.
I thought there was, well, the invite to the chairs actually was there. So,
Maybe tomorrow's a
so,
night.
yeah.
Tomorrow's reminder.
I'll send another reminder out, right? It might come out tonight.
Pretty good, will be provided.
This would be it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, is there other comments or questions? No, none. The next meetings of the select, or does the select board have any comments?
I just have one. So, on my trip to France last month, I did go to many small towns. And I was very mindful of how they manage the traffic. And most of these towns do not have, stop signs, they have roundabouts. But, it was very interesting to see how frequent the speed bumps were. Because, clearly there's issues in the towns, but, it was amazing how the speed bumps were spaced. And they also had these walkways where they were kind of like raised brick areas, like there was a little ramp going up to it, like where there were walkways, but it forced people to slow down. And I guess I would really like to, I'm not sure how we do it, but I would love to get a traffic specialist in and just look at the town and say, if we were going to consider speed bumps or some other way of getting people to slow down, what would be appropriate for Castine? And so I just want to put that on our radar, that I would love to have a study done, because I think that could really help us with our problem.
Any that you have?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Just one more quick question. Derek,
Yes, sir.
so you're gonna send out a request for your run through, all right? And so let's say you take 2% of 6,000, 6 million, $7 million. Judging 2%, right?
Yeah,
And so now we have commitment, right? Now, what happens if if people don't, no, and they don't want to build a firehouse? They want to build a firehouse, but then they build a firehouse over the drinking.
it's not over the drinking water, as we discussed, Jess. But if they vote no to come up with the money to actually do the pre-design, then I guess they're voting no on the fire station in general. So we can't go to that third phase of actually bidding it out if we don't have a pre-design. If we still, like, one of the things, we still need to do hydrogeologic study of the soils, make sure they will handle the foundation and weight of a fire station. So there's other things, it isn't just for that owner's project manager. That's why the budget that I present will be to take care of surveying, geological soil studies, all that
Do you
stuff.
have any estimate over the original price of the property, how much it's costing so far for all the testing and stuff?
Off the top of my head, I don't know if I would if I had been here when we originally did those studies, but I don't know how much they were. Tom, do you have any idea?
I don't, Sharon could have knew.
Karen probably.
Not tonight. She
Maybe not tonight, yeah.
Karen, could you, Gus was asking how much was spent above and beyond purchasing Battle Ave for that property?
Yeah, I'll have to-
And I don't know what we've done. I don't know if he means, this is probably the Freedom of Information Act, so I'm gonna. Ideally, do you mean the phase 1, phase 2 studies? Phase 1, phase 2 study, I don't even know if phase 1 had Battle Ave, but phase 2. And then, of course, the hydrogeologic study, and I guess the closing costs, well, that's part of purchasing.
That was part of it.
So you're saying after that point, so if we have any expenses related out of that reserve fund.
Something we can, okay.
Well, most of it, a lot of money coming out, a lot of that money come out of the reserve account, right?
I believe that's where we paid for the hydrogeological
And
study.
that's where the Port City came out of, and that's where, because it all has to do.
Some of Port City came out of the, next substation. Came out for, I think, $27,000.
Yeah, there's not an.
There's only one fire building study.
Which is a fire rescue building.
Right, that's good. I got $27,000 out of that account.
There's only one account, money's been added to it. Oh,
Okay. So. The next meeting of the select board is a work session on Monday, December 9th at 3 p.m. We have a select board meeting on Monday, December 16th at 4 p.m. And we have town and gown this Friday, the 6th at 9 a.m. here at the. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sort of the